American dream of owning your own house is a reality now.
Comfort Realty will represent you in selling, leasing, purchasing commercial property or residential in DMV area. Count on our ability to offer the best in the market. DMV, your American dream come alive with us. Come, let's talk at 1835 University Boulevard, number 314, Hyattsville, Maryland 20783. Office phone number 301-326-1976. Office fax 301-328-0406. Phone number 301-222-7732.
But let's say if you were eating fried food, for example, 5 times a day, maybe cut it down to 3 times a day, and eventually maybe once a week or even less than that. So that's the idea. You could still have them, but if it becomes your lifestyle, I would probably work towards limiting that.
Okay.
Yep, that's
And
the
then if
idea.
there's a heart condition, then you even want to be more careful.
Careful.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So let's talk about, is fresh better than frozen? Because most times we go to the grocery store and we grab the food from wherever, grab the fresh fruits, we got, and then we go to the frozen section and we grab all those frozen food because it's easier. Gotta be honest. It's easy to cook the frozen food when you are in a hurry than to start chopping food. So tell us,
Right.
is it good to buy them or just stay away from them?
Well, some people, some of you guys might be surprised by this or happy about this. So the verdict is, it's really about the same. So
Okay.
the frozen or the fresh produce or the fruit, they retain about the same nutrition.
Good.
Nutrients. So it really doesn't matter whether you get the frozen one or the fresh one. If you buy the fresh food and if you keep it in your refrigerator too long,
Yeah.
that
Defeats the purpose.
defeats the purpose. So that might be not a good idea to do so. So you want to eat it as fast as possible. So for those instances, maybe having some frozen produce or fruits in your fridge might be a better idea. So you have something always in hand, and they don't lose a lot of the nutrition that it
Right.
it has. So
Choices.
yes, choices. You
Yeah.
have more choices now.
It's good because you have the convenience of the frozen lasting a little bit longer, but you still get the same nutrients.
Yes, they're just
So
as
that's-
healthy. And
Yeah.
that goes the same for the meat or the fish, especially things like fish, because you want them to be fresh.
That's right.
But if you want something like it's almost like a pantry item for your fridge, maybe have some frozen fish in your fridge, and you can just thaw it overnight in the fridge the night before you're planning to cook, and you're gonna have it ready just like the fresh, close to fresh fish.
That's good. And I think most times, so we are talking about life and living it and just talking about heart healthy. I think most times when we come to what limit people from buying the fruit and vegetables is the fact that, they think if they buy it, it's going to get spoiled,
Yeah.
so they don't eat it in time. So today we are telling you, moment of truth. You can buy the frozen ones, put it in the refrigerator and freezer and still take it out
It's just
from
as
your
good.
fruits, from your vegetables. Because most times I will buy the carrots, like the chopped
the
carrots, and I will use it even in stew, or even if I'm doing stir fry stuff like that. I will still, if I have the time, I'll buy the carrot and cut it and then put it in the freezer. So when I'm ready to use it, it's already done. Because
Right.
I don't want to waste 30 minutes trying to cut stuff if I only have 30 minutes to cook the food. But here they're telling you if you already cut it, you can buy it and then put it in there and then use it. So that way we can put more vegetables in our food. Because we don't put a lot of vegetables in our food because we are like, I don't have enough time. But buy the frozen ones and you can eat more fruits and vegetables that way too. So
You
thank
brought up
you.
a good point, and a lot of the times frozen ones tend to be a little bit cheaper. So
Yeah.
It does. It is.
Yeah. And sometimes even when some of the fresh fruits or vegetables you buy, there are some of the fresh fruits that you can buy and still freeze yourself.
Of course.
And it's if you're still feeling a certain way about buying frozen ones, you can always freeze your own fruits and use it whenever you want to, and it will retain the nutrients.
Especially if you're blending it and make it into a shake and
That's
stuff like
right.
that.
That's right.
You might as well just freeze your own and then take it out and then blend it
That's
and then
right.
have yourself your smoothie. And
That's
that's
right.
also a
Yeah.
good idea.
and still be
Yeah.
healthy. We just really want to help yourself because I'm telling you, eating healthy is a lifestyle. If you don't have the same mindset to change your lifestyle, you cultivate a bad habit and you teach it to your children, and it's a vicious cycle. So we really want to help you to do better. So we are talking about recommendation when it comes to fat, because everything that we eat has fat. They were like, oh, this is trans fat, this is dead fat. So tell us, what do we have to do when it comes to fat?
So not all fat are fat. Not all
Fats
fat
are
are
bad.
fat.
Okay. Oh, good for us.
So there are good kind of fat called unsaturated fat, and there are bad kind of fat called saturated fat. Words might be a little bit confusing, but I'm sure you've heard about it a lot of the times. Saturated fat are the bad ones, and the unsaturated fat are the good ones.
Okay.
So the reason why earlier I told you to limit eating too much of the red meat or getting rid of the skin from your chicken and switching from whole milk to 1% is because of the saturated fat. Because all of those items have a lot of saturated fat if you just eat a lot of those any fat that comes from animal products.
Right.
Okay.
So what saturated fat do is they the risk of heart diseases. Eventually, they make more bad cholesterols in your bloodstream. So that can cause a lot of the problems if you eat too much of the bad fat. But whereas the good kind of fat, unsaturated fat, they kind of do the opposite.
Right.
If you eat more, they will work for you. They will work for your heart. They will decrease the risk of heart disease. You will find unsaturated fat, the good fat, from vegetable oils. So things like olive oil, canola oil, avocado oil, avocados, as well as fish and nuts and seeds. So more of those items, the better.
Okay. That's good.
So the thing with the whole milk is it's not really so much about that it's higher in calories, but you really got to watch out for the saturated fat in there.
Yes, that's really the main reason why, for the heart healthy purposes, that we want to eat less of those saturated fat. That's not so much because of the calories.
Right.
And that's good to point out because most people think about the caloric intake,
Most people
not
think more about the calories.
not about the heart healthy.
Right.
And I think about something somebody showed me a long time ago, and it makes sense. Think about clogging your arteries. And that is what saturated fat does. It just clogs up your arteries and like a pipeline. So the more fat you put in there, the more arteries you are clogging. And so by the end of the time, that's when we end up having the quadruple bypasses, because you'll be eating all this clot stuff, and that's clog up your arteries. And we want to eat good things so that we unclog your arteries.
That's
that way we can live longer and still be able to be healthy. So that is good information.
So you did mention not all fat. Very familiar within our community. So I want to talk a little bit about the palm oils and the coconut oils, because in our community people do use a lot of palm oils for stews and stuff like that. So what can you tell us about those kinds of oils? What do people really need to know about them?
So I just said that saturated fat, you're gonna find them in animal food, and usually not in any vegetable sources, except for the tropical oils that you just mentioned. So the palm oil or the coconut oil, they are mostly saturated fat, unfortunately. So I highly recommend that you don't eat them. If you were cooking with palm oil or the coconut oil, I would really switch to other vegetable oils, such as the canola oil or the olive oil or the avocado oil. Yes, it has a lot of saturated fat. So
Moment of truth.
Thank you. I know it is something that is in our community that
It is, especially that palm oil.
Palm oil is like the last half when we are cooking certain food.
I see.
And so if you don't put the palm oil in it, people are looking at your food like your food looks
Where
like
is
it's
the oil?
missing something.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And it's so funny. I have learned not to cook with palm oil.
Me neither.
Yeah, because my husband doesn't like palm oil.
Yeah, me
so I've
neither.
learned not to cook with palm oil. And I always tell people I don't cook for the masses, I cook for my family.
That's right.
So if I
That's
cook for the
right.
masses and they see the food, they will not eat it. Because there's no palm oil. And our community, we are used to using palm oil. So we have to educate ourselves not to use it so often.
It's something we're going to have to unlearn, because a lot of the homes in our community do really still today buy palm oil. And if you're listening to the show, this is Moment of Truth. It's something that you're going to have to unlearn to eat, just because, as Henny is saying, the saturated fat is a lot, and it goes for coconut oil as well. Now, probably more of palm oil in our community than coconut oil, but these are the offenders right here. I'm sorry to break the news, but it is something that we really, really need to watch out for, because you really want to do your heart some good, and sticking with the unsaturated fats are probably going to be better for your heart.
I learned something new. I did not know that.
Yes,
It's commonly
yes,
used. 'Cause
yes.
in the U.S., where you will really
Yes.
find palm oil is in cheap baked goods or fried foods that you will find on the shelves, because they're really cheap. A lot of the food companies like to use that. So if you
Wow.
see palm oil as one of the ingredient lists on the back of the label, then I
I've
would
seen
probably
those.
not buy that product.
Mm.
If there's one takeaway from this show today, is trying not to use the palm oil.
Yeah, yeah, like we literally pour.
Oh yes.
Literally pour it.
No, okay.
I'm telling you, if they cook a meal and that is not saturated with it,
Oh,
people
yes.
will be like, I don't want your food because it
Yeah.
doesn't look rich.
Yeah,
It
they
has
cook
to
it with
be
beans,
rich,
they cook it with spinach,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
yes, it's a delicacy.
I'm sorry to break the truth.
No, but it's good. Like I said, you learned. You know,
Yeah.
I have learned not to cook with it.
Yeah.
So I could cook bean stew without it. I could cook spinach stew without it, and it's still eating the
Yeah.
real food without all the extra stuff that
Yeah.
your body
Yeah.
does not need.
Yeah.
And it's about training. So you have to train yourself to change your taste buds, because our taste buds get used to certain things.
Oh, it's very useful because we grew up on palm oil.
Yes.
Like, I mean, my goodness.
That might be the hard one to
Yeah,
train.
we grew
but
up on it.
your taste buds.
just like you mentioned, it's really about training your taste buds.
That's right.
Same with the salt. It's about training your taste buds. So you could do it. Do it.
Okay. So one of our guests asked, he said, what about research showing palm oil being good for the eyes? Because that's one thing they always tell. They say palm oil is good for the eyes. So people tend to tell you, like, eating carrot. They say, oh, carrot is good for eyes. So, you eat all this carrot when you're little because you don't want to wear glasses. So is there a research that supports that palm oil is good for the eyes?
To be honest, I am not 100% sure about that. But there are a lot more of the bad things about palm oil just because of the saturated fat. I
Yeah.
would really not eat it. And just know that I'm sure you hear tons of things on the internet or about certain
Yeah.
ingredients or certain food
Yes.
good for something. It's some of them are true, but most of the time, just because you're eating one specific food, it's not gonna make that miracle.
Yeah.
So remember that when you find any of those information online, I would really, really be careful. I would eat everything in moderation.
Eye health, and you might want to choose those foods versus using palm oil or maybe an excuse to eat palm oil for your eyes.
There's always an excuse for something.
Yes, but not good enough of an excuse.
Yes. So, I mean, think about the heart, and then if you want to promote, if you, there are a lot of fruits and vegetables that, a lot of berries that promote eye health, and probably choose those ones for the eye health, and let's work on cutting back or down or eliminating palm oil at all completely from our diet, because the risk is just way too high.
So let's hit on the recommended oil, because we're trying to let people know don't eat a palm oil. So let's recommend some of the oil that are good that they should use.
So to be honest, if you were using palm oil before, any other vegetable oil would be better. But among them, if I were to choose, I would, for cooking purposes, cooking in heat, I would choose maybe canola oil or the avocado oil. The reason is because they have high smoke point, meaning that it's not going to burn easily in heat. So that's really the main reason, and it's higher in mono unsaturated fat. So within the unsaturated fat, the good fat, it's really divided into two main fat called mono and the polyunsaturated fat. The monos tend to be slightly better because it not only decreases the bad cholesterol but also increase the good cholesterols.
Okay.
So if
That's
you
right.
can, I would cook with canola oil or the vegetable or the avocado oil.
Mm-hmm.
And the olive oil, I would probably eat it as cold. The reason is it has low smoke point,
Yeah.
so it's gonna burn easily if you use that oil in heat. You're not necessarily gonna see it or smell it, but it's all happening. So for especially the extra virgin olive oil,
Right.
I would only use it for salad dressings or to finish off your dish
Yeah.
or for bread and stuff like that.
Versus baking with it.
Yes.
Because then you lose the nutritional value.
Yeah,
when you bake
that's
it,
another
because the
thing.
heat just evaporates.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
so it might be worse for you if you keep cooking in heat with the extra virgin olive oil.
That's right. So I mean, this is very important because you know extra virgin olive oil is great, and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to bake, so I'm going to use extra virgin oil because this is so good for me. But then in the process, you're really losing value. You're losing nutrients because it is best eating cold, and then now we're learning from Ms. Haney, choose the avocado oils and choose the canola oils for your baking, and reserve the extra virgin olive oil for eating it fresh. And you get the most benefit from olive oil when you eat it fresh.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I have not seen avocado oil because I haven't been looking for it. So now I'm going to look for it. It's about education.
Yeah.
When you don't know something, you know what you normally go buy. So you go to the store, if you're buying palm oil, you go grab your palm oil and go about your merry way. You don't try to educate yourself or look for anything else. So today we are telling you, Moment of Truth, we now want you to change your oil. So look for better vegetables oil that will help you give your food a different flavor, and most importantly, keep you heart healthy. So let's talk about cholesterol, because that is like the hated word. When you go and they do your blood work and they say your cholesterol is high, it's like they must as well tell you have high blood pressure. You're like, oh dear Lord. So what do we do when they say cholesterol? How bad is cholesterol?
The cholesterol, I think there seems to be some misconceptions. Just like fat, not all cholesterols are bad.
Right.
So commonly, I'll talk about two kinds. The HDLs, which are the good ones. You want that to be high. You actually want that cholesterol to be
To be
high.
high, okay.
But you want your LDL cholesterols to be low, because those are the bad ones for your heart. So going back to the fat, the reason why the saturated fats are bad for you is because it increases the LDLs, the bad cholesterols. But you want to eat more of the unsaturated fat because it does the opposite. It decreases the LDLs and increases the HDLs,
That's
the good
right.
cholesterols. So that is just doing so is very helpful for your heart. And a lot of people also mistake that dietary cholesterol, meaning the cholesterol that you eat from the food, they are not exactly the ones that end up in your blood.
Right.
Okay.
It's cholesterols are created from the fat, not necessarily the cholesterols that you eat from the food. So don't that's
That's a
also
good
one of
point.
the misconceptions.
That's a good point.
So let's think example. Most people think about cholesterol and say, okay, this food is high in cholesterol. So let's give examples of food that you think is high in cholesterol that we should avoid, because that's what we are thinking about, the food that we eat that is high in cholesterol. So tell
Yeah,
us some
yeah.
of
Like,
those
give us
things.
example about the egg. Like, talk about the egg again, because it's always like a very tricky
Yeah.
one.
Like you probably hear egg yolks are very, very high in cholesterol.
Yeah.
Which is true. And I actually said that you don't want to eat too many of the egg yolks. So technically, I might be saying two different things here, and I'll explain why. So because it's considered dietary cholesterol, the cholesterol that you get from the eggs, it really shouldn't end up in your blood. But still, the American Heart Association or other numerous research, they suggest that it's probably a better idea to not eat too much of the egg yolk specifically, because we don't really know for sure. They show the research. So far, all the research has shown that it's better to eat less of the egg yolks because it looks like it decreases the risk of heart diseases. But when they actually look at the trend, a lot of food that are high in cholesterol are high in saturated fat at the same time.
That's right.
So there's actually more benefit from cutting down the saturated fat than cutting down the cholesterol. So
yeah.
just they kind of go hand in hand.
It's a chicken or the egg. So if you're eating the egg and the chicken, try to cut down on, either way. Try to cut down on the quantity,
Yes.
so that way it will help overall health.
Yeah, so if you cut down on food that are really high in saturated fat, so things like whole milk or things like really fatty steak or the chicken, the skin of the chicken, you're naturally going to be eating less cholesterol as well as a bad fat.
Right.
So it's two things. You're getting two benefits from doing one thing. So, but
So
that's,
it's very important that
very
So it still goes back to the moderation, like
everything in moderation.
right. Okay, so that was important to know. And moment of truth, keep the questions coming, keep your comments coming, because we have the registered dietitian here today to answer all your questions for you. So let's talk a little bit more about the salt, since we're talking about heart health. So why is it so important to reduce the salt intake or to limit the sodium intake?
So the salt, you hear all the time, salt is so bad for you. We need some salt, but not a lot. The reason is because it's directly related to your blood pressure. If you eat too much, your blood pressure's it's gonna go up very high, and especially for those who has already got diagnosed with high blood pressure or have some kind of a heart conditions, that becomes especially very important. So
Right.
that is why it's always a good idea to eat the salt in moderation.
So most times people talk about salt. Is one salt better than the other? Because everybody say, oh, this is this is that. Get, sea salt, get table salt, get this salt. You get confused. I don't even use salt at all. I always tell people, I use the, what do you call it? The Mrs. Dash, or,
Dash.
I use, you always use a combination of it, but I never really use pure salt on my food. So is one better than the other?
So some of you might be disappointed with what I'm about to say. So here's another truth. Salt is salt. A lot of companies, or you might have heard maybe something like pink salt, the Himalayan salt, or the sea salt, or there are tons of different salts out there. But they're really the same. Salt are salt, and not one is better than the other. Some of the things that you hear about, they might say, oh, it has more minerals, but you're not going to be getting a lot more minerals from those specific salt, and you are probably getting plenty of minerals from other better sources of food. So remember that all salts are about the same, so you don't go out and get those expensive salt because you think they're better for you. And actually, the table salt, but I would say if you have a choice, I would get the kosher salt.
What is a kosher salt?
Kosher salt refers to, you might have seen it on the shelves on the grocery stores. It's nothing special, but nothing special in terms of nutrient. But what's special about it is that it has bigger granules. So when you compare the table salt, which is very, very tiny, to that kosher salt are very visible. So people,
the crystals.
Yes, you can actually see the crystals and they're big. So what we recommend is that if you were using table salt before, switching to kosher salt, you're likely to eat less salt, because when you sprinkle a little bit, you can see them. But actually, per that granule of salt, it has slightly less sodium than the table salt. So in the end, you're very likely to eat less salt and just use less generally because you can see them, and It could be you might be freaking out because they're big and you see them, I don't want too much salt.
Right,
That's
right.
also one of the reasons why, but it's also per granule has slightly less sodium compared to the table salt.
And you know what? I think that's why I feel like kosher salts, like you use it, and sometimes you might have to use a little bit more to really taste the salt
Yes.
versus the fine one. Like the fine one is very sharp. Like you put just a little bit and you can really taste it. But the kosher salt, I see that, like if you're not careful, you're going to really defeat the purpose. You're going to use more because it's like, it takes a little longer to really get the salty taste. And so, but it's really good. And, you know, if you're really trying to cut down on salt, it's better. But you just have to be mindful not to use too much because you might find yourself having to use more to really bring the taste
Yes.
out. But the goal is to use less of it because, like you said, it has less sodium in it.
Slightly less.
Yeah.
Really not that,
Yeah.
not too much of a big difference, but slightly less.
It's quite
and
interesting.
if you happen to have a salt shaker sitting on your dining table, just by getting rid of them, you're less likely to eat more salt. So please do that if you have a salt shaker sitting on your dining table.
That is a
Get rid of
no-no.
it.
Like the
Get
salt
rid of it.
shaker, no. Like, no.
But you know, we are creatures of habit. You know, we train ourselves. If
My
you have it,
goodness.
I don't have a salt shaker. So if I cook, whatever I put in is done. So if you come and you're like, it doesn't taste good, sorry, sweetie.
Yeah,
that's
the
what you
salt
have
shaker
today.
is the
I don't use
worst. It's the worst.
I
It's
don't
the
use a salt
worst.
shaker or the pepper shaker. It just whatever it is already cooking the food. So don't try to add extra stuff. Just enjoy
Pepper
it.
is fine.
Yeah,
It can
yeah.
bring out more flavor.
It
You might
does.
want a little bit more kick, but not necessarily the salt. That might be the solution for some people.
Okay. So switch your salt for your pepper.
Yeah, that will do the trick.
So this is Moment of Truth. We are talking about life and living it, and we're talking about heart healthy. And I think it's important when we talk about our heart. How do we go about making sure that we make choices that are good? We have talked about the food that we eat, but most important, let's talk about some of the lifestyle changes. Apart from the food, what else can we do to keep our heart healthy?
So that comes with other things, obviously. Eating is important, just like we talked about, but also getting a little bit more physical exercise in, physical activity in. Some of you might freak out about this, and it doesn't mean that you all of a sudden have to register for a gym and
Right.
do the gym workout. It could start by little things here and there, making little changes in your habits. So, for instance, let's say you're going to a grocery store. Try to park far from the entrance, so that way you just get more walks in before you shop and after you shop. So that's actually a good idea in taking the stairs rather than taking the elevators. So things like this, they're very simple, but you're going to be getting a lot more exercise in,
Yes.
the activities in, and just doing a little bit more walking. If you have a little bit of downtime after, maybe at work after eating, maybe go for a walk. Even 10 minutes help. 10 to 15 minutes help. So that will actually bring your energy level up after eating. And, so you're less likely to eat more
Right.
once you finish eating your lunch and you go for a walk, and because it takes us a little time to digest and send the signals to our brain telling us, hey,
You're full.
you're full. Yes. So just buying those time actually really, really helps. It doesn't have to be necessarily a gym workout. Remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that. I think we tend to eat and then sit down and just veg out. Like, you eat to the point where you are like so full that you can't even breathe. And that is not healthy. And that is not keeping your heart healthy. So we are telling you everything is in moderation. So eat and then go for a walk and give yourself time for the food to digest and also help you to really feel good. And that is important because the choices that we make today also affect our tomorrow. So when we talk about food and our emotions, does emotions plays a factor in the food that we eat?
I would say so, very much. Food is very personal, so That's
I
why
like that.
we-
It's very personal.
It's very
I know.
personal.
It is.
Yes,
It
it's
is.
very personal. So I think that makes it more difficult to change your habit,
Mm-hmm.
or you might just have emotional attachment to that specific food.
Palm oil.
The palm oil might be one of them, and I understand how difficult it is.
Uh-huh.
So it is very much attached to our emotions. So it's actually a good idea to learn not to do that. So things like binge eating when you're sad or when you're angry,
Mm-hmm.
those are very could be very dangerous. Connecting your emotions to food if you haven't already. So trying not to do that is very important. And one of the methods to not do that is called intuitive eating. It's just an idea that you want to listen to your body more. That might sound a little bit weird, but really all it means is that listening to what your body has to say. When your body tells you you're hungry, that's the time to eat. When your body tells you you're full, that's the time to stop eating. And it's not really, intuitive eating doesn't really eliminate any specific food per se, but it's really more about doing everything in moderation, kind of going along with the cues that your body is sending. So it's a good practice to not connect the food, specifically food items, with your emotions.
So, well, sometimes your body is telling you. Sometimes your stomach feels full, but your mouth feels like it can eat something.
Yes, I get that all the time.
It's like,
That's
oh,
my
I want
mouth
something
telling me.
salty. I want something sweet.
Exactly.
So you're always trying to listen to the palate of your mouth to feed it with something else after you finish eating.
Yes.
So what's the problem with that one?
I have a problem. Because I'm a dietitian doesn't mean I always eat healthy, or doesn't mean that I'm a food police. It really
Not the food police.
we talked about how it takes a little bit of time for our stomach to send the signals to our brain telling us that we're full. So that's why I want you to start doing something. Doesn't really matter whether you go for a walk or you start getting your dishes and finish doing the dishes or whatever, walking your dog, whatever. But if you keep sitting on the dining table or go to your TV,
Oh, that's why you
you're
gotta
gonna
move.
be like, okay,
yeah.
to eat something.
Especially when you go to the TV.
Yes.
You might want some popcorn to top it off with.
Yes.
Or you see a commercial or something sweet, and you be like, what do I have in my fridge that's sweet?
All those things trigger.
Yes.
Those things trigger and kind of makes you want to eat something, although you're not hungry. And remember, a lot of the times when you feel like you're hungry, even after you ate, that really means most of the time it's just signaling you that you're thirsty.
Oh.
Yeah.
Try
Drink
to
water.
Drink water.
drink plenty of water just throughout the day. So that's one of the ways to not overeat. Not overeat. And I think I forgot to mention that all the diet that you see, like celebrity diet, things that you hear about, oh, the celebrity followed this and they lost a lot of weight. Those diets really a lot of the times they're not sustainable. It can't be your lifestyle.
Right.
And it can actually really, really affect your emotions. So if you have been just following those diet, that specific popular diet for that time of the year, you just just jump from one diet to another, you might not have a good relationship with food. You might have
I like that
boundaries.
one. Not good. Food become your enemy.
So I really don't want you to think about diet as something that you always have to eliminate something and you can't have this and you can't have that. But diet is really about the lifestyle, which is what you're talking about, the heart healthy, the low salt diet, which should be your lifestyle. So if you kind of get rid of that mentality, you're going to feel a lot more liberated
Yeah.
and a lot more comfortable approaching the food.
So speaking of diet being a lifestyle, tell us what our like plate should look like. Like, if you had to make some recommendations in terms of portion sizes, what should a typical plate look like, so that you're really fulfilling um, the essential nutrients, or you're not really necessarily denying yourself of anything, but you can still be full from what you're eating. But what should that plate look like?
So our plate, I actually printed out something. I'm not sure if you can
Okay,
see
okay.
this. You might have seen this before. It's called My Plate. This is what's recommended by the dietary guidelines for Americans. And this looks like a plate, right? And it's color coded, and really it's kind of telling you about the portion sizes. So here, ideally, I know not all of us eat in one plate, but ideally, you want to fill half of your plate with fresh vegetables and maybe like a quarter with your grain. So it could be rice, pasta, bread,
Okay.
whatever you choose. You need the grains or the carbohydrate
That's
for your
right.
energy.
You do.
That's what's going to keep you going. And a quarter with your choice of protein, which could be beans, tofu, if you're vegetarian, or it could be any kind of meat, fish. That would go here, and usually little like half a cup of fruit on the side, as well as maybe
Dairy.
like a cup of milk if you do drink dairy. If you don't, then that's fine. So that's really ideally what you want to be eating for each of the meal.
For each meal.
Each meal, ideally, but
Okay.
You know, so this is very important. This replaced the pyramid.
Yes.
You know, in the
Yes.
past we used to have the pyramid, and now we're talking about my plate. So the same concept, and now in a plate format. So you could think about it. Your plate should look very colorful. If it doesn't have color in it, it means that you're not doing it right. So thank you.
thank you.
This kind of eating, it seems like it has to be conscious. It has to be, thought through, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are not getting enough fruits and vegetables, and definitely not covering one side of the plate. That's a whole half of the plate. And then you talk about the grains and the proteins. So it's just really something to be mindful of, what the plate should look like. And this has to be done like for each meal. So guys, this is going to take some work.
Actually, eating is not easy.
Yeah,
If you want
yeah.
to do it
If you
right.
want to do it right,
You wanna do it
exactly.
right. So you
You're right. You're
have
right.
to reserve and spend some time, invest some time. in
That's
your
right.
eating. Yes.
Invest some time in your eating.
And that's the problem. I think most of
Yeah.
the time we don't think, we are not conscious, as we are not conscious consumers when it comes to the food we put in our body. We just pick and eat. So whatever it is, we grab and eat. So you grab anything that is in your refrigerator. So if you didn't buy it, we just go to the fast food restaurant and go grab the food and eat. So let's talk about the same concept. How do we go to a restaurant and eat healthy? Or even
I like
or
that
even
question.
the fast food restaurant and still eat healthy, because it's about choices and the time consumption.
Yeah,
So
can we
still
eat healthy in the restaurant?
when we are? Let's start with the fast food first. Can we still eat healthy when we go to McDonald's, Chicken Filet, and all those places? And we eat healthy.
I'll be honest. I think it's almost
Impossible.
impossible.
Ow!
Not, but more because if you're thinking in respect of the heart healthy and the low salts, because they're very salty. You just can't help it if you eat out, and it's not just the salt that's considered sodium. They may, if you have you heard, if you've I'm sure you've heard of MSGs.
Of course.
Those are also considered sodium, and there are some other additives that's considered sodium, which also affect our heart. So because of that, it's not recommended, and also they tend to have a lot of saturated fats. But if you happen to be eating at a fast food restaurant,
Of course.
I would just enjoy it. Honestly,
Don't
I
feel
would
guilty,
enjoy it.
eh?
Yeah.
Okay, but don't make it
Well,
a
just
habit.
once a while, maybe.
It's gonna be a once a while, but I don't
Yeah.
want your once a while to be like once a week is once a while for you. If that's the case,
Then we have issues.
yes.
But one of the things that I've seen, and I'm being honest, is that when you go to McDonald's now, they have like salad in McDonald's, and then they have like grilled chicken, and so can we go? Because I'm just trying to make sure that people go to McDonald's.
How do you know what's on the menu at McDonald's?
I'm guilty.
Might be a regular.
I'm guilty. But I just want to make sure that when we go there, we choose some healthier
Yes.
stuff, because there are healthier stuff when you go eat at all this fast food restaurant, and there are some. If you Subway, you can go to Subway and still choose healthy sandwiches, and make sure that they make it with vegetables and all those things. So just being conscious of what you're choosing, it is the number one goal.
Well, sometimes, depending on, especially like the nature of your work and if you're not really putting a lot of thought into, or a little bit more time into taking your own lunch to work, sometimes you may just find yourself at, out there getting food. And how do you choose healthy foods? Because everybody is not taking food to work every day. Sometimes there's just time constraints, and you may not have the luxury every day. But when you're out there and there are all these food places, how do you still make a conscious effort, to select close to healthy foods if possible?
Well, that's why what we just discussed today is helpful, because it's a lifestyle. You could pretty much apply that to anything. Let's say if you're at a McDonald's, maybe choosing the grilled chicken over something that's fried is probably a better option. And maybe skipping that French fries is probably going to be a better option.
Why would I go to McDonald's and not have a fries? Go ahead.
And for your salad, rather than choosing those like Thousand Island or like Caesar salad dressing, something that's heavy and has a lot of saturated fat in it, maybe choosing vinaigrette or just olive oil and some vinegar might be a better option. And when you're going out to a restaurant that's not a fast food restaurant, if you can ask the chef or the cook to maybe just use less salt in my food, you could probably
request
get a
that,
little bit less salt, although a lot of the sauces are already pre-made, most likely. But just by doing so, that's a great great thing, great habit to make.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to overeat, maybe just asking your server not to bring out that bread plate before the meal.
That's the best part.
Is actually, if you don't see it, you're not going to be eating it.
Of course.
So that's just a good way to not overeat.
Oh my goodness.
And just remember, when you're eating out, they're going to be giving you a lot of food.
Yes.
Take away.
Might be 2 to 3 times the serving. So what I like to tell my patients is ask for a to-go box before you start eating. That's the key. Before you start eating. So maybe set aside, I don't know, half, depending on how much food you get. Set aside half, and then it's out of your sight and just work on what you have. That's actually a very good idea to not overeat.
Yes.
And when you're having conversation with the person next to you, in front of you, it takes a while, because that takes away time from eating, right?
Right.
So you're likely to eat a little bit less because the digestion's happening as you're talking, and the signal is already going to your brain. So you might have already noticed that if you are having a good conversation with your family or friends, you might be eating slightly less than what you are used to be eating.
Yeah.
So it's always a good idea to have someone eat with you rather than
Don't go by yourself.
going by yourself, or like at home watching TV or doing something on your phone as you're eating. You're very likely to eat a lot more.
Oh my
It's just a
goodness.
good idea, a good habit to not do.
Other stuff while you are eating.
Yeah, the
Sit
TV is
down.
bad
Yes,
because
it
as
is.
soon as you get in front of it, your mouth is talking to you.
You're kind of mindlessly eating at that point.
You become a mommy, just feeding
Yes.
yourself. I like the thing that you said about putting the food aside. Because
Yeah.
most times we eat until we can't eat anymore. Then we ask for the takeaway container.
It's
By
the
that
last
ti-
thing we ask for.
Yes, because by that time you have eaten so much that you are literally,
You're
torturing
full.
your body, and you're like, oh, I can't breathe, and
Yeah.
now I want to take it away. But if you can divide it and
Before
take
you
you
eat.
eat,
Before you
I
eat.
think that is really a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
I would try that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. That's good.
Wow. Oh, see, we said when the conversation is good, you don't see the time fly. So, but before we wrap up, I want you to sort of just lastly tell us, like, you've said a lot of things about when you're in the stores, but for anyone walking into a grocery store, what is your advice in making that grocery list or whatever, in choosing the foods? What words can you say to what would be advice as a registered dietitian to the person walking into a grocery store to pick up food items or whatever?
So any grocery stores, usually how they're laid out, all the fresh items are in the what do you call it? The outer sections, they are filled with the fresh goods.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go towards the middle, that's where all the processed food is.
You're
So
right.
if you just stay on the outer
outside.
section, you're very likely you might not even buy any processed food that day. But just know that that's just how the grocery stores are set up. So try to stay
Right.
in the outer section of the grocery stores. And if you happen to shop at Giant or any other, it's actually becoming a trend that they're hiring more registered dietitians at supermarkets. So they're there
Really?
to help you shop. They might be doing cooking demos. They are there to help. So I know for a fact the Giant has supermarket dietitians.
Oh, really?
They're very good resources. So if you happen to be at Giant, maybe ask if there's any dietitian on site.
Oh, that's good to know. I
They
didn't know
can
that.
really even recommend you certain products that might be better, more suitable for your good lifestyle. So
I see.
that's one recommendation
That's
that
neat.
I have. But it's actually becoming a trend
Wow.
throughout the supermarkets. But generally, try to look for, when you're buying an item, try to look for signs like low sodium, low salt, or no salt added.
No salt added.
As
Yeah.
well as low fats or no fat. Although you have to be careful, sometimes they put more sugar to compensate for the low fats.
Catch 22.
There's always something.
There's always something. But those are the words that you want to look for. And then maybe look at the ingredient list, and if there's palm oil, I would probably avoid it.
Palm oil, y'all.
Palm oil, going back to palm oil, I'm sorry.
Even though there are research that are done that say palm oil is good, I'm telling you, there's some good research that is done. They tell you palm oil is good. So, but everything is in moderation.
Everything
so,
in moderation.
So we
yes.
just want you to be very cautious of what you do. And so thank you so much for really being such a wonderful, a wonderful
This has been
guest,
amazing.
and really giving us a good insight of some of the things that we need to do. So as we are wrapping up, is there some last minute thing that you want our audience to know?
So as we wrap up, one takeaway that I want you to have is that this is not going to happen overnight. It's not a diet that you're trying to follow just to lose weight and go back to whatever you were used to be doing. This is a lifestyle, and the key about lifestyle is it's going to take a while. It could take time. It's going to take time
Yeah.
to make these changes. So don't feel like you have to suddenly change everything in one day. That's very likely not going to happen. And if that happens for whatever reason, you might go back to it easily. So take your time, do it slowly until your taste buds are used to it and until you feel comfortable about it.
Okay.
And as long as you keep up with that and just knowing these knowledge, you're going to be making better choices overall.
Right. Right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
We
so
really
much.
appreciate it. And we thank our guests. We thank everybody just for really watching the program. We have learned a lot, and I hope you also learned a lot. And of course, this whole month we're really talking about living well, living healthy, and we just really wanted to know If you have any questions, any topic that you want us to focus on, we'll definitely focus on it and make sure that we are really helping our life to feel richer and live longer with a healthy mind, with a healthy body, healthy mind.
That's right.
So thank you so much.
Thank you again, and thank you to
Thank you
you,
so
viewers.
Very
We've definitely
fun.
learned a lot. We learn new things every day. So thank you so much, viewers, for being with us tonight through our program. The program continues for this month. This whole month is the health month, and so next week we'll also be coming to you with something about health. So do stay tuned. I would like to say a big thank you to our producers back there who are helping us greatly, Elder Silfi and his team. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our technicians. We'd like to say a big thank you also to our sponsors. Assurance Collections, thank you so much for your sponsorship. I would like to say a big thank you to Lean on Jesus Foundation as well, to Delta Global for all your IT needs, and also to Comfort Realty for your real estate needs. Back to you.
We also want to talk about a couple of things that are going on. So we're going to be having a proselytization here at Church of Pentecost. So think about that as we're thinking. Of course, the Easter Convention is coming up, and of course, everything that goes on around, people need to be aware of it. If you're in Maryland, schools are closed for the coronavirus. So just think about it. Schools are closed. So it's going to be closed for 2 weeks, starting from the 16th to the 27th. So if you haven't heard, if you are not aware, schools are closed. We just also want to make sure that people are keeping their mind and their environment healthy. So wash your hands, do all the stuff that you need to do to keep yourself healthy. I also want to invite you guys March 21st to a grand opening. And it's about financial breakthrough. We're talking about keeping your body healthy. We also want to keep your pocket healthy. So you need to come to the financial class to talk about managing your resources, investment, retirement, all those things that we want to do as we're keeping ourselves healthy. The address is 6404 Ivy Lane, and it's suite 805, and it's in Greenbelt, Maryland. Zip code 20770. The address again is 6404 Ivy Lane, and it's suite 805, Greenbelt, Maryland, and it's 20770. And it's from 10 to 12 on March 21st. So we'll remind you again as the time approaches, but we just want you to put on your calendar, keeping your pocket healthy and keeping your body healthy. And we also want to say thank you to our national head apostle Amoako, our regional head apostle Assembly, and of course our district pastor, Pastor Evans Boateng, and also all the peoples whose birthday is this March. And today's, I believe, is our president, first lady in Ghana birthday. So all the birthday for this month, we want to say happy birthday and all the good things that are happening this month. Say good luck and God bless you all.
Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
Yes, and Tuesday program, and of course Thursday's program.
The American dream of owning your own house is a reality now.
Comfort Realty will represent you in selling, leasing, purchasing commercial property or residential in DMV area. Count on our ability to offer the best in the market. DMV, your American dream come alive with us. Come, let's talk at 1835 University Boulevard, number 314, Hyattsville, Maryland 20783. Office phone number 301-326-1976. Office fax 301-328-0406. Phone number 301-222-7732.
The